Collier is in serious hot water after lying on Caitlin Clark on national television.
The WNBA All-Star coaching trade everyone's talking about just got a massive plot twist. Napheesa Collier dropped some serious truth bombs that completely flipped the script on what we thought we knew. The tea has been spilled, and trust me, this changes everything we assumed about Caitlin Clark's controversial coaching decision. What do you think really happened behind the scenes with this coaching swap?
The WNBA All-Star Draft was fun between Caitlin Clark and Napheesa Collier, the team captains, picking the players, picking the rosters. But the most interesting aspect was the coach swap, because Clark traded Cheryl Reeve, who was the coach of her team, or was to be the coach of her team, to Collier for Sandy Brondello, the coach of the New York Liberty. Of course, Reeve is Collier's head coach for the Minnesota Lynx, so that makes sense. But the drama is going to come from Reeve having previously been critical on social media about the amount of attention Clark received relative to the rest of the league, not to mention being the coach of Team USA that Caitlin Clark was so famously snubbed from.
So here's what went down, and I'm telling you right now, this story is about to get spicy. The 2025 WNBA All-Star Game was supposed to be straightforward. Cheryl Reeve was to oversee Team Clark, while the New York Liberty's Sandy Brondello was to be in charge of Team Collier. Simple, right? Wrong.
I don't know if this is in the rules. I don't really care. But I think we've already discussed we are going to trade coaches. He's going to take her coach, Sandy Brondello. Let's get it. It's going to be amazing. Sorry, WNBA, if that's not in the rule. Sorry, ESPN, if that's not in the rules. But we just made it a rule. So, Sandy Brondello, come on over. Whoa! Let's get to it. You can coach Sabrina.
Then came the bombshell that nobody saw coming, Clark said on the broadcast. I don't know if this is in the rules. I don't really care, but I think we've already discussed we are going to trade coaches. The basketball world collectively lost its mind. Social media went into overdrive, conspiracy theories started flying, and everyone assumed Caitlin Clark was making some kind of power move against Cheryl Reeve. But hold up, plot twist incoming.
How do you rate Napheesa's drafting skills for her NBA drafting? And when you feed, did you know that Cheryl was going to get traded beforehand, before you and Clark did that, or was that just on the spot when it happened? So first for you, Napheesa.
Oh, I think Fee knows what she wants, so her draft picks were all great. I'm happy that she, got Courtney, she got Cheryl, so the whole Minnesota Lynx gonna be there. So I'm happy about that. So she's a great drafter.
Yeah, watch out. I might be a GM one day. No, I would hate that job. Yes, I texted Caitlin before to ask if we could trade for Cheryl. So yes, it was pre-planned.
Napheesa Collier just dropped the real story, and honey, it's not what any of us thought. I texted Caitlin before to ask if we could trade for Cheryl. So yes, it was pre-planned, Collier admitted. Wait, what now? You mean to tell me that all this drama about Clark rejecting Reeve was completely backwards? Let me break this down for you, because this is actually wild. Everyone and their mother thought Caitlin Clark was pulling some diva move, basically saying, I don't want that coach. The narrative was that Clark was throwing shade at Reeve, maybe because of all the Olympic drama from last year, where Clark got snubbed from Team USA, a team that Reeve happened to be coaching. But Napheesa Collier just flipped the entire script. She's the one who initiated this whole thing. She texted Clark asking if they could make the trade happen. This wasn't about Clark rejecting anybody. This was about Collier wanting to keep her current coach for the All-Star Game. Now, if you know anything about basketball, this actually makes perfect sense. Collier has played for no other coach aside from Reeve since entering the league in 2019. Of course, she'd want to stick with the coach who's been developing her game for 6 years. It's like asking if you'd rather work with your favorite teacher or get stuck with someone completely new for the biggest presentation of the year. But here's where it gets really interesting. The way this trade was presented on television made it look like Clark was the one calling the shots. Fee is going to take her coach, Cheryl Reeve. Sandy Brondello, let's get it. Clark made it sound like she was making the executive decision, when in reality, she was just going along with what Collier had already requested. This is actually genius-level maneuvering by both players, but especially by Collier. She gets what she wants, keeping her familiar coach, while letting Clark take the heat for what looked like a controversial decision. Meanwhile, Clark gets Sandy Brondello, who just coached the Liberty to a championship. It's actually a win-win situation disguised as drama. The media coverage of this whole situation has been absolutely bonkers. Everyone was writing articles about Clark's shocking decision and what it meant for her relationship with Reeve. Sports commentators were analyzing every word, every gesture, every possible hidden meaning behind the trade. Meanwhile, the real story was sitting right there. Collier orchestrated the whole thing. And can we talk about how Collier handled this revelation? "Watch out, I might be a GM one day," Collier said. She quickly added, "No, I hate that job." This woman has a sense of humor about it. She's basically admitting she played puppet master with the whole situation, but she's doing it with a smile. The timing of this revelation is perfect too. After the Minnesota Lynx defeated the LA Sparks 91-82 on Thursday, Collier spoke about the trade, so she waited until after a win, when everyone's feeling good, to drop this truth bomb. Strategic? Absolutely. What's even more wild is how this completely changes the narrative around Clark and Reeve's relationship. All this time, people were assuming there was some kind of beef between them, that Clark was making a statement by refusing to work with Reeve. But if Collier was the one who initiated the trade, then Clark was actually just being a good teammate by going along with it. This also shines a light on how differently the media treats these two players. When Clark makes a move, it's analyzed to death. Every decision is seen through the lens of controversy or drama. But when Collier makes the same move, it's treated as normal basketball strategy. The double standard is real, and it's showing. Let's be real about something else here. The relationship between Clark and Reeve has been complicated from the jump. Reeve was notoriously critical about the amount of attention Clark received compared to the rest of the league leading into the Fever Stars' rookie season. And then there's the whole Olympic situation where Clark was infamously snubbed from a team that Reeve was coaching. But here's the thing. Maybe that water is under the bridge now. Maybe the coaching trade wasn't about avoiding conflict at all. Maybe it was just about two smart players making a strategic decision that benefited both of them. Clark gets a championship coach, Collier gets continuity with her longtime mentor. Sometimes the simplest explanation is the right one. The All-Star draft itself was actually pretty entertaining beyond just the coaching drama. Clark selected Fever teammate Aaliyah Boston with the first overall pick, which was a classy move. Collier then chose Breanna Stewart of the New York Liberty with the second pick, going for proven star power. What's interesting is how both captains approached their drafts. Clark was clearly thinking about chemistry and familiarity, picking teammates and players she had good relationships with. Collier was thinking about winning, grabbing UConn connections and proven veterans who could perform under pressure. After Clark announced the pre-planned coach trade during the All-Star draft, she tried to deal Satu Sabali to Team Collier so that Brondello could coach her New York Liberty star Breanna Stewart. This shows that even after the coaching trade, both players were still thinking strategically about how to optimize their teams.
Napheesa Collier was on an interview with CBS on a podcast and was asked about what she was most excited about for the coming season. And she said the CBA, not winning a championship, not running it back, but the CBA. And then she was asked a bunch of questions about the CBA, and she acknowledged everybody else except for the one player who's made people notice, and that's Caitlin Clark. A good 15, 20-minute interview, and at no point does she acknowledge that Caitlin Clark is what has given them, or who has given them, the leverage in negotiation, if they have any leverage to begin with. No, instead, she talked about how they have filled up the arenas. She talked about how people are watching on TV. She talked about unrivaled, in fact, her creation. At no point does she mention, Caitlin Clark brought eyes to this product. And now when we walk through an airport, people recognize us. In fact, she said that people now notice them. Why the hell do you think that is? No one knew who the hell you were until Caitlin Clark showed up. This is the non-stop narrative. I mean, man, you thought Napheesa Collier was smart enough to recognize this. But even she is stuck in delusion syndrome. It seems like no one can be helped. Even after Cheryl Miller has told the world, everybody despises Caitlin Clark. They all hate on her. Damn shame.
The fact that Collier refused to part ways with her unrivaled business partner shows she's thinking beyond just basketball. These players have business relationships, endorsement deals, and personal friendships that all factor into their decisions. It's not just about the game anymore. It's about building a brand and maintaining professional relationships. One thing that's been completely overlooked in all this drama is how well both teams actually turned out. Clark's team includes Sabrina Ionescu, Aja Wilson, and Satu Sabali in the starting five, which is absolutely stacked. Even with some injuries, this team has serious firepower. Collier's team responds by using her own firepower. Collier has a strong bench that includes Skylar Diggins, Angel Reese, Kelsey Plum, and others. And up front is Brianna Stewart, Alicia Gray, Nika Aguamica, and Paige Buchers. Both teams are loaded with talent, which means the actual game should be incredible regardless of who's coaching. The coaching trade might have been the headline grabber, but the real story is how competitive this all-star game is going to be. These aren't just exhibition teams. Both rosters are constructed to win. The competitive balance is perfect, and that's what fans really want to see. What's also interesting is how this whole situation reveals the politics of the WNBA. ESPN's Malika Andrews reported, while hosting the All-Star Game draft, that the WNBA has lit the coaches trade Clark and Collier engineer. The league was clearly caught off guard by this move, but had to roll with it. That's some serious player power right there. The fact that players can just decide to trade coaches on live television, and the league has to approve it on the spot, shows how much influence the star players have in the WNBA. This would never happen in the NBA. Imagine LeBron James just deciding to swap coaches during an all-star draft. The league would shut that down immediately, but the WNBA is different. The players have more direct relationships with league officials, and there's more flexibility in how things get handled. In some ways, this makes the league more player-friendly, but it also creates situations like this where narratives can get completely twisted. The media coverage of this whole situation has been a perfect example of how stories can get completely misunderstood. Everyone was so focused on the drama angle that they missed the actual story. Collier played this perfectly. She got what she wanted while letting everyone else create their own narratives. This is actually brilliant marketing for the All-Star Game. Think about it. Instead of just another exhibition game that people might casually watch, we now have a storyline that everyone's talking about. The coaching trade generated more buzz than any roster announcement could have. Whether it was intentional or not, this controversy is going to drive viewership. The real winners here are the fans. We get a competitive all-star game with two loaded rosters, coached by two championship-level coaches, with enough backstory and drama to keep everyone engaged. Plus, we get to see how Clark and Reeve actually interact now that the controversy has been revealed to be much less controversial than everyone thought. Looking ahead to the actual game, this coaching situation could actually be fascinating to watch. Brondello just coached the Liberty to a championship, so she knows how to get the most out of star players. Reeve has been developing players for years and knows how to maximize talent. Both coaches are going to be motivated to prove their teams are the best. The player dynamics are going to be interesting too. Collier also decided to keep her fellow UConn Huskies close, tapping Alum's Brianna Stewart and Paige Buchers for her starting lineup. That's three former UConn players who already have chemistry and know each other's games. That could be a significant advantage. Meanwhile, Clark's team has a different kind of chemistry. Clark's first picks in each category were fellow Fever players and starter Aaliyah Boston and reserve player Kelsey Mitchell. She's building around players she works with every day, which could lead to some beautiful basketball. The bottom line is that Napheesa Collier just completely changed the narrative around this whole coaching trade situation. What everyone thought was Clark making a controversial statement was actually just two players making a smart, strategic decision that benefited both of them. The media got played, the fans got entertained, and we're all going to tune in to see how this plays out on the court. This whole situation is a perfect example of why you can't always trust the first story you hear. Sometimes the truth is much more interesting than the drama, and sometimes the drama is just a distraction from the real story. In this case, the real story is two smart players making moves that set them up for success. And that's actually more impressive than any controversy could be. Napheesa Collier just proved she's playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. The coaching trade was her idea all along, and she let the media create their own drama. What do you think about this revelation? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, smash that like button, and subscribe for more WNBA content that breaks down the real stories behind the headlines.